somebody I'd like to meet. Jack! That's Jack. Level. You're going to sit. And today, now he's got his bum in my face, we're going to be making dog soap. Now this is going to be an unscented soap. I'm not keen on using essential oils. If I was going to make a scented dog soap, I think I'd use fragrance oils, and I explain why. Well, vaguely explain why in the video. As you can see, Jack's a very hairy beast. He also wriggles about a lot when we bath him. So I'm not going to be able to show you the soap in action, but we do use my homemade dog soap on him, and it's absolutely brilliant. Down. Anyway, this is going to be a dog soap that doesn't dry. A level of coconut oil in it, but it's not very drying because it's got lots of shea butter, rice bran oil and additives to make up for the drying effect of the coconut oil. So stick with it, wait till the end, and we'll test the soap out. Okay, so today we're making a soap for dogs. Now, when I look online, I can see that there's quite a lot of 100% coconut oil soaps, and I understand the reason for this. And the reason is that people want something that bubbles up really well when they're washing their dog. It needs to be a really cleansing soap. But then the problem with it being cleansing and very cleansing is it can also be drying. So I formulated this recipe so that this soap is not only very bubbly and very cleansing, but also adds condition back into the coat, helps detangle it, and makes it nice and shiny. So in our jug here, we have 455 grams of coconut oil, which is really bubbly and really cleansing. We've also got rice bran oil, and we've got shea butter, 65 grams each of those. We also have in here castor oil, which is extremely moisturising. It's really conditioning. Your dog's coat is really going to love it. And we have 65 grams of castor oil in here. So for the shea butter, we already know that the coconut oil is going to be doing the cleaning. So because we want the soap to not be overly cleaning, we need to add some more conditioning butters and oils in there. So in here we also have shea butter, which is deeply moisturising, and because this soap has an 8% super fat, the shea butter will counteract the drying effects of the highly cleansing high coconut oil soap. Also, we have 65 grams of rice bran oil. This is a really gentle oil, and it's great for sensitive skin, and it's high in antioxidants. So alongside the shea butter and the additives, which I'll talk about in a moment, we're using in this soap, this will help to maintain the condition of both the dog's skin and the coat. Now in here, you look at that and, you'll think that doesn't look like normal everyday lye, and you'd be right, because I've used beer, Newcastle Brown to be precise, in here. So beer, which in this case, as I say, is Newcastle Brown Ale, or Newkie Brown as it's more popularly known. It contains sugars which will make the soap more bubbly, and that's what we really want in a dog soap. but it also will give the hair softness and shine, and it also contains various proteins and nutrients. However, how many of these make it through saponification, that's debatable. Okay, let's look at our additives. So the first additive we have is here, and this is nettle powder, and I've made this myself. Here I've got 10 grams of nettle powder. I actually would put in more, but this is all that I've got left. And nettles are still growing, but not the young leaves that you get in spring, and those are the best ones to use. So I've got 10 grams of nettle powder here. Now, nettles actually are a very underrated superfood, and for most of us it's completely free because it grows everywhere all around us. Again, nettle is something that can improve shine, and it also has anti-inflammatory properties and that can reduce skin irritation, which is ironic. And it also contains silica, which can help with detangling. Here, when it only just fits in there, I've got 40 grams of powdered oat. Now this is rolled oats that I've powdered myself using a blender, so it's a finish powder, but not too fine. So I'm going to add this in, and I hope it's going to give just a little bit of grip because of the texture. But oats is fantastic in soap. I absolutely love it, and most of my soaps are made with oat milk. So adding the powdered oats to soap, it will give it a little bit of grip because of the texture, so it doesn't slide out of your hand. As far as properties, the humble oat is rich in proteins and antioxidants, and research has shown it's got anti-inflammatory properties, so it can potentially reduce skin irritation as well as it being conditioning and soothing. Now in here I have, and it's going to seem like quite a lot to you, I have 40 grams of kaolin. Now, one reason I'm using kaolin in this duck soap is it naturally contains silicate, which gives detangling properties, and it will give the coat a smooth feel, and it gives the soap a really smooth feel too. It also has a little bit of potential to, it's very, very absorbent, so it can suck up toxins and excess oils, but obviously it's going to have done most of that in the soap. So here I'm looking at it to give it that extra slide and slip, and to use as a detangling agent. I'm putting the recipe in the description box below, so if you didn't catch all of that as I've just talked through what I'm putting into this soap, then just have a quick look in the description box and you'll see what's gone into it. Okay, so obviously I've melted down my coconut oil, my shea butter, and added them in with the rice bran oil and the castor oil. So before adding in our lye, I want to add our additives in to the oil. So I'm popping in the oatmeal, well, the powdered oats. I'm popping in the nettle powder, and the nettle powder will make the soap green. And I'm just going to blend that on low and hope that all the nettle powder doesn't puff out. Okay, so I've got those blended in. How I make my powdered nettle is I gather lots of nettles. The fresher the leaves, the better. The newer growth as well is really good. And I just dry it out in, well, it's actually an air fryer that I dry it out in, a halogen air fryer. I just put the setting on really, really low and put it in there until it dries out. You have to watch it though, because even though it's dried out, it can sting you, so use some gloves. Once it's dried, I just crush it up, powder it up, give it a blast with the blender. Okay, so we've got our nettle and oats in there, so now we're going to add our kaolin, which is probably going to puff out. So try and do it slowly. additives blended in there. And now it's time to add our beery lye. And I did forget to say how much lye we put in this. And I believe, let me just grab my piece of paper. Well, I call it a piece of paper. It's my recipe from Soap Calc. And we can see here I've got 97 grams of lye or sodium hydroxide in there with 106, what did I use? 173 grams of beer. Now, when you're using beer, you need to make sure that you've got all the carbonation out of it and the alcohol, so you could do that by just sticking it in a pan and putting it on to simmer for half an hour. Okay, so I'm adding in my beery lye. I'm going to blend this up to trace. The other thing I forgot to mention is that we won't be putting any fragrance in this soap. I'm of the opinion, and this is after doing lots and lots of research, say for example, if you want to look up how safe tea tree oil is for dogs, there's many sources that will tell you it's safe, but there's just as many that will tell you that it isn't safe. So as far as essential oils are concerned, I'd rather avoid them. I personally think that actual fragrance oils are safer for animals and dogs than essential oils are. Okay, so I'm happy with that now, so it's time to pour. Okay, so that's nice and thick, and I'm going to just pour it into this mould. Let's scrape it out. A bit of a bang now. There we are. Now, I'm not going to cover this or try and make it warm. It's going to get very hot. I'm pretty sure of that, because not only does it have the beer in it, which has got sugar in it, it also has the oatmeal in there, which is like pure carbohydrate. So there's a lot of sugar in there. So this is going to get really hot. So I'm going to leave this somewhere. I'm not going to put it in the fridge, but I'm going to leave it somewhere cool for around 24 hours. And when I bring you back, we're going to cut this, and I will be testing it as well at 24 hours so that you can see how well this bubbles up. We're back to cut our dog soap, so let's have a look. I have to confess, it hasn't actually been 24 hours. It's very hard. I'm going to use my mini cutter. Okay, I want these to be nice and chunky. So I'm going to cut them at, I think, 4. Do I want to do 4.5 centimetres? Let's go 4.5. So there we are. Oops, I've got some scratch marks on it. It smells rather beery. Right, so there's not a great deal of excitement in cutting these soaps. So let's get on with the lather test. Okay, so I'm just going to cut off a small piece from the end to test the soap. And here I've got some warm water. So remember this now, this is less than 24 hours old. And with CP soap, the longer you leave it to cure, the better the bubble becomes. Let's try it out. Look at those bubbles there. This is going to lather really, really well in your dog's fur. And it's going to leave it really well conditioned. Don't know if you can actually see all the bubbles there. Let's give it a little bit of a... You see that in my hands? That's gorgeous. Absolutely fantastic for a soap that's straight just out of the mould. Nice big bubbles, which is what you get from coconut oil, and that fabulous conditioning from all those, from the beer and the additives. So there we go. I do have other dog products that I can show you sometime in the future, but I'll just leave you for now with me finishing off cutting this dog soap.